Hey, everybody. Zach and the Jets are back from Europe. I'm back from Chicago. The season still on the brink, or really past the brink. Welcome to the flight plan. We didn't recap the loss to the Broncos, so we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about Garrett Wilson's injury, trade rumors, and look ahead to the Panthers game on Sunday. Tim McMaster along with Zack Rosenblatt. Please like the show wherever you're watching or listening. We also welcome the baggage handlers on YouTube for checking us out live. We appreciate you guys. Give us a 5-star review. Zach, you're back from Europe, I said, because it wasn't just London, but a stop in Belgium for some waffles. How was that? How was the waffles?
The waffles were great. So they have two different kinds of waffles. There's one called a Liege, and I think the other is called Belgian waffle. The Liege one is kind of like more circular, and I think they like fry it up a little more. They flatten it a little more, whereas the other one's a little more like airy and big. And we liked the thin one more. I'd say Belgium is a really cool country, and the culture there, it's really funny. You walk around, it could be pretty much any time of the day. There's a lot of like restaurants and bars where they have like patio seating, and so many people will just be sitting at the edge looking out, like either they're people watching or just sitting there, and they'll have a beer. Like they'll always just have a Belgian beer right by them, and the beer's cheap, and everybody just kind of chills and drinks beer and has the local delicacies. And we went to Bruges too, which is beautiful. But it was I'm mostly thankful that the Jets didn't have any sort of breaking news while I was on vacation. As we know what happened last time when I was in Paris, I made the very smart decision of doing that all over again. And the Jets didn't fire anybody. Steve Wilkes did well enough the other day that he was safe. Even he wouldn't have been fired anyway, but that was like the risk. And so I got to, the only thing that bothered me was the cold I had while I was in Belgium, and got back late last night. I am struggling right now, but I am powering through it for you guys and for this, this great football team that we get to cover.
All right, let's get into the great football cover. And we didn't do our 4-down episode on Monday where we got into the game more, but I did want to, I think we should talk about the biggest kind of storyline or blunder or newsworthy thing that came out of that game, which was the end of the first half, right? And letting the clock unwind. And Glenn defended it after the game. He took a little bit of a step back the day after the game and said, yeah, he probably should have thrown a Hail Mary at least. But I don't want to talk about the play and how it impacted the game as much as like big picture, Zach, because, and he brought this up a little bit, against the Cowboys, it was the opposite, right? It was like, go, go, go. And it burned them, no doubt. But that's more because, the offense and defense let them down from what was going on. But I think my take is you can't let that impact your philosophy. And it seemed like that's what happened, right? Where against Denver at the end of the first half, whether that Dallas game was on his mind or whatever, it was suddenly like, okay, you know what? We're not an attacking team. We're the team that just goes into halftime and is happy that this game is close and we'll start with the ball. And I think that's a really bad sign.
I mean, but the thing is, they went for it on 4th down, like that right. On that drive. Like I think that's the part where everybody lost their mind. Like you went for, and by the way, like it worked in the end, but like the 4th down, the fake punt, which was a direct snap to Breece, they pretty much had the starting offensive line and Breece Hall out there. Like what did the Broncos think was going to happen? Like it wasn't like the most cleverly designed play, frankly. But you do that, and then you run the ball, run out some clock, you throw it, and then you just let the clock run out. It was, yeah. I mean, Garrett Wilson kind of said what he thought. His quote was kind of perfect. He's like, I wanted to know what the plan was, and then I didn't like the plan when I heard it. And every Jets fan was like, welcome to our lives. It was just a weird thing from Aaron Glenn. I think so. He simultaneously showed a lack of confidence in both the offense and defense in that moment in my mind, because, and look, I get it. Justin Fields was a mess, obviously, and we'll get into that. I get not being confident in him, but you get to midfield. Even Glenn admitted this, at least throw a Hail Mary, but even then, your kicker has pretty good range. Like, try to get in field goal range. Like, what are we doing? Like, that just blew my mind. That whole sequence. I think it reflected very poorly on Aaron Glenn. It seemed very disorganized. I didn't really the excuse he made was, look, I don't want to harp on this too much. We'll try and go forward, but like he said that the officials weren't clear on whether it was a first down or not, because it was a third down pass to Josh Reynolds, and he said the refs maybe initially said it was a first down, and then they said it wasn't, and he said to avoid confusion, we decided just to go into the locker room, and I'm just like,
no,
it's okay to say you made a bad decision at the end of the day. I think he doesn't want to admit defeat to the media, and I get it, but it just reflected very poorly on him, and he's talked a lot, and I've written about this recently. He said before the season that the last 4 minutes of each half belonged to the coach, meaning that he's making the decisions. He's taking over essentially at that point. And the end of half, especially the end of first half, play calling and coaching and all that stuff has been pretty awful all season. And that was just the worst example of it. And, that was just kind of the picture of this team right now. They're just dysfunctional, and they don't seem to, I don't know. It's hard to say because there's so many factors here. I think Justin Fields became such a net negative in that game that they were scared to throw it.
Mm-hmm.
While also like getting mad that we're suggesting that he should bench Justin Fields at the same time. So like it's a lot of like mixed messaging. There's a lot of things they need to figure out. They need to figure out who they are. Like, who is this team? Like, I don't know what this team's identity is on offense or defense. They want to be a running team, but they couldn't even run the ball that well. Justin Fields, he said his knee is kind of bent. He said he had a contusion. He popped up on the injury report in London randomly, but he was a full participant, so we probably should have pressed on it more. But it sounds like maybe that's limited his ability to run. And if he's not running, they were kind of keeping him in the pocket, and he was too scared to throw it. So you kind of just don't have an offense at that point. So it's all a mess right now. But that sequence was pretty telling of everything. And it's kind of a moment you hope Aaron Glenn, a rookie coach, that he learns from that moment, that he takes the right lessons from it. Not that we're all wrong for criticizing him, that that was just not the right way to go about it. I don't think it sends the right message to your players personally. So, yeah, I hope that we don't have to ever see something like that again, because it's a thing that the Jets do weird things each game, and everybody in the country mocks them, especially when it's a national game, which this was, because it was the only game on TV. So Kurt Warner on the broadcast was like losing his mind about it. And they just need to cut that crap out and just play like a normal football game. That's all I ask.
Play a normal game. Well, you mentioned the identity and needing to figure out who they are. And that's the thing, is I feel like in that moment, like what they say they are and what they were are two different things. It's like their identity changed, and they need to not be afraid. And to your point, maybe that does mean, and I know it's not happening, this week, but maybe you need a quarterback that you at least trust to throw the ball a little bit downfield. Facing a less intense defensive front will help too. That was obviously a part of it. We're going to get into Justin Fields a little bit later in the episode. Garrett, as you mentioned, was kind of the most vocal guy about all this, and he wasn't happy, and Glenn and him were talking on their way off the field and all of that. And then in the second half, Garrett hyperextends his knee. I don't think they've officially ruled him out for Sunday, but obviously he's going to miss Sunday. He's probably going to miss a couple weeks at least, which is really, when you think about this offense, kind of terrifying, right? Because like, here's a guy who is somehow having a great season individually on this offense that isn't doing much. We've talked about the lack of a second option offensively, and now you don't have a first option. I just don't understand what the offense is going to look like without Garrett Wilson out there. Like, I mean, obviously they want to run. They're going to have to run, but the defense, like, what does the defense have to worry about other than them running, right?
I mean, it gets worse because Josh Reynolds also didn't practice yesterday. And I believe he didn't practice today. And the fact that they need Josh Reynolds that badly is kind of like says everything. Like, this wide receiver room as it stands right this second would be Arian Smith, Alan Lazard, who didn't even play in London because he stayed home. I think his wife maybe had a kid. I'm not 100% on that. You have Tyler Johnson. You have Isaiah Williams on the practice squad. He'll get called up because he's a returner. And you have guys like Brandon Smith, Jamal Pritchett, Quentin Skinner, and they just signed a veteran, Trent Irwin. Like, that's the worst wide receiver room in the NFL without Garrett Wilson. Even with him, it's probably the worst one in the NFL. So, I don't know what you do on offense. Like, this is where you need Tanner Engstrand to kind of show what he's made of.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, number one, have a quarterback who's scared to throw it, you have receivers who maybe are not going to be as good at getting open. and you have a running game that's going to be a little easier to stop as it was this last week because everybody knows you're going to run it, and the Panthers have a pretty good run D, actually, I'm pretty sure. So, sorry, I'm coming off a cold, but yeah, I just, this is like ugly. There's been, the Badlands Twitter had a graphic of one year where the receiver room where Jermaine Kearse was like the number one receiver going into a game, and like it was, the group around him was like Deontay Burnett and a couple other scrubs, and this kind of feels headed that way. I imagine Mason Taylor is going to get a heavy dose of targets if those two guys can't play. I mean, Tyler Johnson probably is the number one receiver at that point. Like this is bad. And if you want to, the Panthers game looked like one where you could be like, okay, maybe the Jets lose to some of these other teams, but you got to beat the Panthers. The Panthers look pretty good right now.
Won 3 out of 4.
And the Jets not only don't look good, they're more banged up, and their most important player. Like I think before the season, we talked about the most important guys. I mentioned Jermaine Johnson. That proved to be true. We'll get to the defense. He like reinvigorated that defense along with Jarvis Brownlee. Garrett Wilson would have been number one on my list because they have no other receivers. And, Garrett, his connection with Justin Fields, even Fields struggling, he's been getting Garrett Wilson the ball. So now you remove Garrett Wilson, and this is the least intimidating offense in the NFL. Like that's, there's no other way to say it.
I feel like we were going to do the rundown has trade deadline next, but let's just go into the Panthers and then come back to trade deadline at the end. I just think that transitions better.
Yeah.
You mentioned Carolina not being as bad as we kind of thought. 3 of 4 wins, 27 plus points in 3 of those 4 last games. Rico Dowdle, right?
Going off. Yeah.
180 plus
fantasy
yards.
Superstar.
Yeah, in back-to-back games. He had 30 carries. Like who gets 30 carries in the NFL anymore, right? Like that's like a flashback. 30 carries last week, 183 and a touchdown. This is a team that like on paper coming into the season, it's a bad team, right? Is Bryce Young going to be a decent quarterback and all this? He's also coming off his best game of the season, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns, 114.8 rating. So yeah, like you said, this isn't what we necessarily thought it was. Let's lean into the defense, though. Is the Jets defense that we saw Sunday against Denver, is that what we should expect to see now? Like, have they kind of figured it out with Jermaine back?
That's the question. You feel better about it. I mean, because the Broncos, I didn't really understand it seemed like Sean Payton was scared to throw the ball too. I thought Bo Nix looked pretty good early in that game, and they just got away from the pass, and they were really like, his decision-making was really confusing to me on offense. Their defense Vance Joseph is as good as it gets defensive coordinator-wise, and they absolutely dominated Justin Fields and the offensive line and stuff like that. But anyway, to that point, like the Panthers, in a way, I see as a stoppable offense similar to the Broncos one, because I think Bo Nix, he's better than Bryce Young, but like he doesn't scare you just like Bryce Young doesn't really scare you, and I think you can rattle him. Their running game is probably their strength. They have Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard will be back. The Jets did better against the run this last game. They did a really good job against J.K. Dobbins. And then, the passing game, they have T-Mac Tataroya McMillan, my guy from Arizona. He's looked really good. He had 2 touchdowns last week. You put sauce on him, you hope you're able to stop him, and the rest of their passing offense isn't really that intimidating. So the Jets defense should come out and have a really good game. Dave Canales is an offensive-minded coach, and he's done a good job with quarterbacks and things like that. But the Panthers' offense does not scare me. The Jets' defense should have another really good game. You want them to get more than, I think they only had still like one or 2 sacks.
One sack.
One.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the late Jermaine Johnson sack, which is pretty huge. But I will say, like, they got their first takeaway. They got it in the first drive. And they recovered a fumble, too, of all things. Like, that just doesn't happen for this team. Like, that was crazy. But right out of the gate, Jarvis Brownlee and Jermaine Johnson were just, like, everywhere. Like, Jarvis Brownlee in particular, like, his tape was really good. He just flies around. He plays with energy, and he brought something to that defense that they've been missing. And he's the kind of guy they need in this group. He's the kind of guy that fits the mold of what Aaron Glenn wants his players to be. And so it looks like Darren Muji really had a good find there. A guy on a rookie contract in his second year who looks like the no doubt nickel starting quarterback right now. And then Jermaine, like, he kind of picked up where he left off. I kept being worried about whether he would look like himself this year. especially after his latest injury. And he again was everywhere. He's playing with energy and ferociousness. He was good in the run and the passing game, had that huge sack. He's an emotional and energy leader. And it's just crazy to see the difference in the defense when you just put a good defensive end on that defensive line and make life easier for Will McDonald and Quinnen Williams and Harrison Phillips and those guys, because it made a huge difference. So I was really impressed with Kiko Mauigoa, even the linebacker. Like, he had a good game, the rookie, and he was like a net minus over the last couple of weeks. And Brandon Stevens made like a bad play at the beginning of the game, but other than that was pretty solid. So if the defense can build on this, you just need the offense not to be terrible again. And then we're having the conversations that we've had for years on this podcast, which is, can the offense meet the defense? I'm not ready to say that. I need to see it more than 1 week, but that was a highly encouraging performance by that defense. And I think they can do the same thing to the offense this week.
All right, let's switch it around to the other side. And Fields, obviously, Glenn has defended him, and you mentioned it, that kind of defending him as the starting quarterback, but then showing that he's afraid to use him as far as throwing the ball as a quarterback. It's interesting, but this was like a historically bad performance, and we've seen good and bad Fields, but like the passing side of it, negative net passing yards is crazy. Like 45 yards passing and then losing 55 in sacks, 9 sacks, and then 9 completions. Like, there's so many crazy numbers that come from that game. So when you look ahead, obviously the Panthers do not have the pass rush that the Broncos had. We knew going into the Broncos game it was going to be a problem, and it was. I don't expect the Panthers to sack Justin Fields 9 times, but he also admitted after the game that he was holding onto the ball too long, which is something we've talked about. And how is he not going to hold on to the ball too long when he doesn't even have Garrett Wilson to look for?
Yeah, I will say he didn't take like 100% accountability on that. He kind of was like, I need to get rid of it. He's like, but also guys weren't always open. Like, that was like later in the press conference, he kind of like alluded to that today. I mean, yesterday he definitely said that he needs to be more aggressive, which is absolutely true. He averaged 5.5 air yards per attempt. The big topic this week is that he needs to take shots downfield. I feel like we're, having deja vu here. I feel like we've had this conversation every other week about him either holding onto the ball too long or needing to take shots. I think he had one pass that traveled more than like 10 yards in the air or something like that. So if he can't move, if his knee's as bad as maybe it could be, then you have to throw the ball. Like, you can't be afraid to throw it. And, I don't know, maybe take some deep shots to Arian Smith. Like, you drafted this kid for that reason. And like I said, this run defense of the Panthers is pretty good. They're 9th in rushing yards allowed. I don't think it's going to be that easy to run on them. They have Derek Brown up front. I don't really understand a lot of the play calling on offense too. I don't think Tanner Engstrand's really helped Justin Fields. Hasn't been a lot of like play action, hasn't been getting him on the move, hasn't been taking shots downfield, hasn't been a lot of the stuff that I think you need to, put him in position to succeed either. So a lot needs to be fixed from this Jets offense, and it starts with Justin Fields. If he doesn't throw the ball, they're screwed. And on his 9 sacks, I believe average time to sack was like 4 seconds. If a quarterback is holding the ball that long, he's going to get sacked. So he needs to get through. Like, I know mobile quarterbacks, their time to throw is always going to be higher, but Justin Fields is always number 1 in the NFL, and he hasn't really made up for it in other areas, I think. So.
All right. One more Panthers note I had, a historical Panthers note. 1995 was the Panthers' first season. There's just a little symmetry here. They played the Jets week 7. They had a bye week, so they were 0-5, and they got their first win as a franchise in week 7 in 1995 against the Jets. So maybe the Jets flip the script and get their first win.
That's actually a great note.
Season against the Panthers.
That's a good note. I'm going to have to keep a note of that. Yeah, I like that.
Hold that one. That was the Dom Capers Panthers. And that was interesting because they were 0-5. They finished the season like 7-9. And then the next year they were really good. Like, they made the playoffs in their second season, I believe, because they had like their like get good fast plan as a expansion franchise was like really good. They just brought in all these veterans and didn't worry about like the future.
Yeah.
They were just like, we want to be good right away. Anyway, there's a little tidbit for you.
Yeah, I like it.
Trade deadline. When you're 0-6, the trade deadline is obviously a topic that pops up along with the draft, but we're not going to go there yet. Biggest rumor is always Breece Hall. So why don't we start there, Zach? He was asked about it because he put out on social media like a cryptic message that he then said had nothing to do with him. It said free 20 was the finish, but he said that did not mean that he wanted to be traded. It was more about just like freedom as a player and
his quote was kind of I don't know. I think he kind of, I wasn't there because I was traveling yesterday, but his quote was, I haven't posted anything this season, so it's just a way for me to say I'm ready for whatever comes my way at the end of the day, whether it's going against opponent, whether it's in my life. It's just for me. It's a football thing. So, all right, I'm ready for whatever opponent's coming away, whatever the case may be. It's a for the game type of thing. I don't really
hasn't posted all season. Maybe 0-6 isn't the time to start.
Well, but I don't even know what all those words he just said mean in relation to free 20. Like, right. I mean, he didn't get thrown a single target, which is, again, going back to the egg strand thing, is, unforgivable. Like, how are you not throwing him the ball a single time? But I don't know. I think if he was traded, I don't know that his quotes would be very. I think he would be very happy. I'm not saying he's unhappy here, but he's the kind of guy that he would go to another place and would talk about how he finally gets to be the player he's always wanted to be or whatever, because the Jets play calling has often held him back. I don't think they're going to trade him as of right now, like right this second. I would not be surprised if by the deadline it happens, but the vibe I get is they're maybe asking for a little more than teams are going to be willing to trade for a running back in his contract year who has been a little inconsistent. Like the sense I get is they want somewhere in the range of a 3 or 4, and I don't know that teams are willing to give that. So I don't know that they've been actively shopping around. Like, I wouldn't say that they've been actively shopping around, but I would say they definitely will listen to phone calls for him. There's a couple weeks before the deadline. If the Jets go and get a win against the Panthers, I think it's less likely they keep him around. If they fall to 0-7, then not everybody's available, but a lot of guys that you would think are.
A lot of the other names on the defensive side of the football, no surprise there, since you just look at this team, there's more talent on that side.
Yeah.
Including the two edges, Jermaine, who we just talked about and his impact, and Will McDonald. I guess my thing there, Zach, is like, if you want to be good next year and you're so thin at that position, how could you trade one of those guys? Yeah.
Like the only reason I could see would be that they see contracts coming up for technically both of them in a way, because Jermaine has his 5th-year option next year. If he plays the way he did the other day, the rest of the season, and stays healthy, he might want a new deal. Even if he doesn't, then you're going into the next year in a contract year with him. Do the Jets want to pay him after all the money they just spent on Sauce and Garrett? I'm not sure. And then Will, he's going to be going into his 4th year next year, so he'll be eligible for his extension as well. He hasn't had as good of a year this year as he want, but these are two guys that are going to be appealing to everybody. But Jermaine in particular, like, he's somebody I think you build around, because I think he's a leader. I think he's an all-around really good player. And Will McDonald, like, I'm not saying I would trade Will McDonald, but he's a one-dimensional player right now. So, and it's a valuable dimension as a pass rusher. So I imagine you could get something for him. But I don't know that they should be that desperate to get draft picks that you're trading away young talent like that. So Those two guys I would keep, unless it was like a blow your socks off. And that, I don't think you're trading Jermaine Johnson unless a team gives you like a 2nd-round pick and more, probably. So I don't see that happening.
Yeah, the way I look at it is these are young players. So, like, you trade them for a pick. What are the chances that the pick ends up being as good as these players? Like, that's just kicking the can down the road.
I mean, it becomes it's purely a financial thing at that point. So
which not what the fan base needs to deal with right now. Exactly. Like, let's not make financial decisions. Let's get a good football team. All right, up next, Michael Carter II, who, man, what a roller coaster ride it's been. Fully practicing again after the concussion, but he hasn't been great at times. We know it's in there, right? We've seen him in the past. I know it's a position that a lot of teams would have a need for, right, in the secondary. But I just wonder what the demand would be, like what they would be even able to get for Michael Carter II.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't see him as someone who's going to play for them much anymore because of Jarvis Brownlee, then if you can get a 5th-round pick for him or something, like, sure, go and get her a conditional 6th. Like, it doesn't sound appealing. It's unfortunate because injuries have kind of decimated him because he was really, really good before his back injury last year. He's coming off a concussion now and probably got Wally pipped by Jarvis Brownlee. But I don't know, maybe like the 49ers, the Falcons, Ulbrich or Saleh want to bring him in. I'd say out of these guys we're listing, he seems like the most likely to get traded in my mind, just because they'll probably cut him this offseason anyway because of his contract. You can get off his money. So I would say I'd put him as the highest odds of getting traded out of like these guys that if you're doing some selling off, I think he makes a lot of sense.
What do you think the line is? Like, obviously I think they'd probably take you said fifth. Like, yeah. Do you do the deal for a sixth?
Yeah, I mean a six or one of the or type of deal where it's a player for a player and a pick or something like that. Like it's not going to be anything significant. Like the only guys you're going to get something significant for, that one of them we're going to get into in a second. You're probably not actually trading unless you get blown away. Whereas these guys, you kind of have to take what you can get. And the Jets might want to replenish their day 3 picks because they've traded a few of them to get like these defensive tackles and to get Brownlee. So,
all right, the Williams brothers. I mean, these are not young guys like Jermaine and Will, right? Like they're still in their prime, but they're not the young guys. Quinnen is obviously a guy you're paying a lot of money to, but he's also been like the guy. I feel there's a lot of feelings here with Quinnen, right? Because like he's the guy that more than anyone else, I feel like just deserves to have a winning season with the New York Jets. And it would be really a shame to see him go elsewhere. He's also the guy that you would actually get like a real good draft pick for.
Well, that's the thing. That's if you want to talk yourself into trading Quinnen, could we get a first round pick for him like that? And I think you don't do a trade unless you can, or some sort of crazy package of seconds or something like that, or a really good young player. Because I mean, he's a top 5 in my mind, a top 5 defensive tackle in the NFL. I know some fans sour on him because he doesn't always get the sack numbers you want, but he also gets double and triple teamed every play. And, you know, I wonder what his frame of mind is. You know, he has a lot of non-guaranteed money on his contract coming up. I don't get the impression that the Jets will want to redo his deal. He's not been on a winner his entire career. He hasn't been on hasn't had even sniffed a winning record. Or I guess that's not accurate. They went 7-9 in 2019. So I guess he did sniff it. But that year they started like 2-7 or whatever it was. So, so that's an interesting one. Like I'd be open to listening if I was the Jets. I wouldn't trade him again personally, just because, like we said, if the goal is to be competitive next year, he's one of the guys you build around. And I have something coming out about this tomorrow. Like Aaron Glenn wants to talk about the Lions and how he was there for that, and it took patience. And you know, the Lions that first year they started like 10-1, I believe. And they turned it around. And if you look at the rosters, and I did for my story, the Jets have like 5 or 6 guys that are either stars or that were Pro Bowlers within the last couple of years. Whereas the Lions, the only Pro Bowlers before that season that they had in significant roles were Jared Goff and TJ Hawkinson. And Jared Goff was like thrown into the trade. So like this is a team that already has the baseline of talent. So if Aaron Glenn can figure out the coaching side and filling out some of the holes in the quarterback position, like this is a team that should be able to compete quicker. So in Quinnen would be a big part of it. You get rid of him, then all of a sudden you don't have that dominant double team eating defensive tackle in the middle of your defense anymore. So I wouldn't trade him, but you know, a first round pick would be hard to turn down. And then Quincy, I can see it. I don't really see a scenario where they pay 2 linebackers significant money and they just pay Jeremy and Sherwood, and he's in the last year of his deal. So Quincy, he's banged up right now, so that doesn't help his value. He's a really good linebacker when he's healthy. I actually like him better than Sherwood just as a player, especially with the way Sherwood's played this year. But I don't think you can pay 2 linebackers that much money. So if you can get pretty good value for him, I would go and make a move, especially in a lost season. Like I don't know how much Quincy is going to impact things going forward.
You mentioned your story about Glenn and like, you know, continuing to coach this team after this year. Renzel in the chat just has a comment about, yes, should Glenn get a second year and clean house with the coordinators? I mean, it feels like we're getting closer and closer to that outcome, even if we think like there's no way they would like Glenn go after 1 year. Then they say maybe bring in McDaniels at wink. That's not going to happen for a lot of reasons.
Well, bringing in McDaniel would be a lot of fun because I think he's looks like he's fun to cover, and he's a smart offensive play caller. I don't see them firing Tanner. Wilkes is the more obvious candidate. But yeah, Aaron Glenn's not getting fired. Like that's like the gist. That's like the crux of my story is that he is not getting fired now, and he's not getting fired in the offseason. Like the Jets are not giving up on him. Everything I've heard is that he's getting paid significantly more than any Jets coach ever has. And Woody Johnson's not going to pay a guy to not coach you for 4 years. And Woody, from what I hear, has been mostly hands off, like to the degree that Woody can be hands off. I think he's been letting Aaron Glenn build this team in his image and letting him sink or swim in that image. So, I think whatever you think of Aaron Glenn right now, and there's plenty of reasons to be skeptical that he's the coach you want shepherding your franchise. I think anyone who feels that way, I don't blame you. But I think firing him before he at least has a chance to enact his vision. I mean, we're only 6 weeks in. Like,
right.
Let's check back like towards the end of the season. I think it's pretty ridiculous to say he should be fired now. It's entirely conceivable, and it's happened many times where guys even turn it around within a season and look better. Like maybe they finish with 6 wins. I don't know that they will. I don't think they will. But if they do, maybe you feel a little better going to the offseason and, or if they finish with the number 1 pick, in theory, that makes this an appealing place to be. And so, you get the quarterback, you hope you get the right one, and you build it out around him, and you have an offensive line in place, I think, if guys are healthy, and maybe you re-sign John Simpson and either bring back AVT or find somebody else and, get some better receivers around Garrett. You just fill out the roster in a better way. But I do think there's a path to this team being competitive next year. I know that's nobody wants to hear that because it's always next year with this freaking team. And it's always everybody telling you to be patient and give the guy a chance and this, and this, and it never works. And so that's actually part of my story. Like it's hard to blame any Jets fan for turning on Aaron Glenn, frankly. But he deserves a chance to get to next season. Like that's just the reality. They signed him, they hired him, everybody was excited. He was viewed as one of the most qualified coaching candidates, first-time coaching candidates in the league. There's a reason for that. Like give him a shot to have the Lions' turn around. I don't know that he will. I don't know that he won't. But he deserves a chance to at least get to next year, is what I would say.
And it's looking more and more like they're going to have their pick of any quarterback, right? Like the number 1 pick is out there to be grabbed at this point. They're the only team without a win, and I don't know. I look at them and I don't see the win, whereas most teams in the league, you can picture like, oh, they'll get to 3 wins or they'll get to 4 wins. The Jets, it's like, are they going to get to 1? You assume they will eventually, but But yeah, they seem to be headed to that number 1 pick. So we'll be able to start talking about that. When do we get Dane Brugler on?
Yeah, true. We might have to have him on earlier than ever before. So
all right, I can't remember the earliest. I should go back and check. The earliest we've had Dane Brugler. I'm sure it was the Zack Wilson draft. I'm guessing because they look like they were headed.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's fair.
And then they let it slip away.
Yeah.
All right, let's do picks.
Let's do it. I'm getting my first look at these games right now, actually.
I'm going to do standings. Oh, no. Hold on. I got to log in real quick.
I had a bad week, so I dropped in the standings. After I had a really good week before, I had a really bad one.
As everybody sees me log in to our service here. Johnsy continues to lead the way, held on to his 4-point lead at 76 total points. I'm in 33rd, which isn't good because I think we're down to like, as far as people who have done every week, we're down to like 40 or so or 45. So things are looking bleak. Zach, you're not far ahead of me. You're 2 spots up. Oh, no, we're tied 58 each.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. All right, let's take a look at this week's games. Starts off tonight, Steelers at Cincinnati. Steelers -5.5. I'm actually picking that game, and I'm going with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cincinnati's just
Joe Flacco, though.
Yeah. Again, said Tomlin and Flacco, they have like a crazy hit like 24 times or something like that. They've played each other because he's played so many games in that division.
Yeah.
All right, Jets game. I'm back on the prove me wrong bandwagon after somehow stupidly picking them last week. But this one doesn't even seem, this one just seems like a typo to me. The way Carolina's been playing and the Jets coming back from London for Carolina to only be a 2-point underdog. I know it's in New York, but it just seemed like sadly an easy pick to go with Carolina. What do you think?
I mean, if Garrett Wilson's not playing, like I just don't know what the Jets do on offense. So that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, I said Carolina -2.
I mean, it's unfortunately, it could be like 14-6. Like who knows?
Yeah.
It could be really ugly again. All right. Any other games on here really stand out to you? Tampa Bay, Detroit on Monday night looks like
that'll be a good one. That'll be good. The Bucks look really good, man. Like Todd Bowles deserves credit.
Baker's getting MVP talk. Things are going.
I mean, we got Saleh versus Jeff Ulbrich going on, Atlanta, San Francisco. That should be a good one. Brock Purdy, I think's coming back. Jeff Ulbrich just shut down Josh Allen again. Like the Falcons just killed the Bills defensively, and he's done a great job. I think they're the #1 pass defense in the NFL, Atlanta. So shout out to Brick.
Just real quick on the Bills, just like the way the NFL changes. They went from Super Bowl favorites, like Super Bowl locks at 4-0, to now McDermott being on the hot seat.
It's crazy. Like I haven't watched them that closely, but like the reactions, everybody's like, this team's going nowhere. Might as well blow it up. Like I've seen all those reactions from Bills fans. It's crazy. The Dallas Washington should be good. Oh, Vrabel going back to Tennessee. That'll be fun. Tennessee fired their coach.
I thought his quote was good. He said, like, it's notable, but not important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they shouldn't have fired him.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay. I think that does it. All right. Well, good luck, Zach, covering this team again this week.
Oh, man. I hope they get a win. Like, let's just do it.
Let's get a win.
Let's just do it, guys. Maybe they needed me to just tell them, let's just do it, guys. That's my message to them. Let's just get a win.
This would be the time because I feel like people have really turned off. Like, hey, this team's not going to get a win. So this would be the time.
This isn't me. This isn't me shitting on the Jets fans at all. I cannot imagine this is a good crowd on Sunday.
No,
like that.
Yeah, I can't blame. The weather looks nice. So I feel like
the lowest tickets are 56. Usually, I guess it's usually later in the season when it gets to single digits, but I don't know. It's paying $50.
And it's not like Carolina travels, so I feel like this is going to be empty.
It's going to be ugly.
Empty seats.
And no Garrett Wilson. Like, oh, geez.
No traffic for you. There's the positive.
That is very appealing.
No, you can't. A simple man. At this point, you cannot blame Jets fans at all for not showing up.
No.
At 0-6. Totally understandable. All right, everybody. We'll be back with 4 Downs edition next week. Back to our normal cadence to 2 a week to talk about the Jets' first win of the season. That's going to do it for us on Flight Plan. We'll talk to everybody again soon. Bye.